Ladies, let me start with this truth. A man doesn't fall in love with a woman because she's perfect. He falls in love because she makes him feel something he didn't even know he was searching for. It's not the prettiest smile in the room, the most flattering outfit, or the most flawless life story that makes a man stop in his tracks and say, "She's the one." It's something deeper, more electric, something that bypasses logic and taps straight into his emotional core. And tonight I'm going to show you exactly what that something is, because the moment a man realizes you're worth falling for isn't a grand gesture or some Hollywood moment. It's often quiet, simple, and deeply real. It's easy to be liked. It's easy to be praised, admired, or noticed in a crowd. But the truth is, none of that is what makes a man fall. A man might be drawn to a woman's beauty, attracted to her confidence, or intrigued by her lifestyle, but he falls in love when he feels seen. Not seen for who he presents himself to be, not for the image, the ambition, or the surface-level charm, but for the deeper layers, his struggles, his dreams, his insecurities, his softness, and sadly, most people don't take the time to even look for that part of him. They're too focused on what he can give, how he can show up, or what he can offer. But when a woman genuinely looks into his world and sees the man he is beyond the mask, it disarms him. You see, the world teaches men from a young age to protect, to provide, to win, to fix. There's not much room left for vulnerability, so when a woman comes along who listens, not just to respond, but to understand, something rare begins to happen. He begins to trust. He starts to say things he hasn't said before, because for the first time it doesn't feel like he has to prove anything. There's no performance, no pressure, just presence, and that feeling, that's the gold. That's where his emotional attachment begins to deepen, because being seen, in a world that constantly expects you to hide, that's love in its purest form. It might be the moment you ask how he really feels, not just what he thinks. Or the moment you notice the shift in his energy and gently say, "Talk to me. You seem a little off." Maybe it's when you sit in silence with him during his hard day instead of trying to fix it. All those moments say one thing: I see you, the real you, and I'm still here. That's when you stop being just someone he's dating and become the one who understands him better than anyone. That's when the question in his mind shifts from "Do I like her?" to "How did I ever live without her?" Because admiration is fleeting. But when a man feels emotionally seen by a woman, he doesn't just fall. He stays. There's a subtle but powerful moment in every connection where a man unconsciously tests your standards. Not because he's malicious. Not because he wants to hurt you, but because in his own way he's figuring out, can I be all of me here, and more importantly, will she still respect herself even if she likes me? What makes a woman magnetic to a man isn't how much she bends to accommodate him, it's how gracefully she doesn't. And yet, there's a trap many women fall into, mistaking love for tolerance. They start to overlook patterns, excuse disrespect, or soften their boundaries in hopes that love will grow if they just give it time. But here's the hard truth: love never blooms in the soil of self-abandonment. A man knows you're different when you hold your standards not as weapons, but as a quiet, unshakable truth about who you are. You don't need to scream, guilt, or play emotional games to prove a point. You simply show it in how you carry yourself, in how you walk away from half-effort, in how you respond when he sends a late night "What are you doing?" text and you say, "Resting, talk tomorrow," not to manipulate, but because you value your peace more than momentary attention. And what happens in those moments? He feels the shift. He realizes this isn't the woman who needs him to validate her. She knows who she is. And if he wants to be a part of her world, he's going to have to step up, because she won't step down. But here's the beauty of it. When you set boundaries without punishing him for not meeting them, it creates space for him to grow, not space for resentment. You're not saying, "You're a bad man." You're saying, "This is the level I live at. You're welcome to join me here." And that difference is everything. It's not about being harsh. It's about being clear. The woman who can stand firm in her values and still show warmth, who can say no with kindness and mean it, that's the woman who lingers in his mind, not because she was the easiest, but because she was the realist. That's when he knows, if I want her, I've got to bring my best, because she won't settle for anything less. A man knows you're worth falling for when you challenge him, not by tearing him down, but by calling him up. The truth is, every man, deep down, wants to be better. He might not say it out loud. He might act like he has it all figured out. But the right woman has a way of awakening the part of him that wants to rise, to evolve, to stretch, to become something more. But not every challenge is received as love. The way you challenge him matters. You don't need to criticize his every move or remind him of his flaws to make him grow. In fact, the men who grow the most in a relationship aren't being dragged into self-improvement. They're being inspired into it. And inspiration comes from belief, not shame. When you say things like, "I know you're capable of more," or "That's not like you," "You're better than that," you're not pushing him away. You're speaking to the higher version of him. And men, whether they admit it or not, respond deeply to a woman who sees the greatness in them, even when they're not currently living it out. That's rare. That's powerful. But what makes it even more magnetic is that you do it without diminishing him. You don't belittle his effort, mock his failures, or compare him to someone else. You simply remind him, through your presence, through your standards, through your example, that he's capable of showing up as a stronger, more grounded, more emotionally intelligent man. And when you challenge him like that, he doesn't feel criticized. He feels called. He starts to associate you with growth, not pressure, not demands, but a kind of silent motivation that stirs something inside him. Suddenly, he finds himself wanting to step into his potential, not because you forced him to, but because you believed in it so much that he began to believe in it too. That kind of influence doesn't come from shouting. It comes from consistency, from a quiet confidence that says, "I won't settle for less than the best version of you, not because I need it, but because I see it in you." And once a man realizes that love can be the place where he becomes better, not smaller, he starts to realize, this woman doesn't just love me, she grows me, and that's unforgettable. One of the most undeniable signs that a woman is worth falling for is when a man sees that she's already whole without him, but she still lets him in. That contrast is powerful. It tells him, "I don't need you to complete me, but I choose to share my life with you." And that choice carries so much weight. You see, there's a certain energy that comes from someone who's already happy before the relationship begins. She's not waiting for love to fix her. Her confidence doesn't depend on compliments. Her joy doesn't hinge on whether he texts back in 10 minutes or not at all. She's centered. She has her own passions, her own purpose, her own peace. That's magnetic. And when a man encounters a woman like that, he feels something completely different than he does with anyone else. Instead of feeling responsible for her happiness, he feels invited into it. That's a breath of fresh air. It tells him, there's no pressure to perform here. I'm not her savior. I'm not her identity. I'm her partner. But it's not about being cold or detached. Quite the opposite. What makes it truly beautiful is that despite having her own world, her own dreams, her own energy, her own emotional rhythm, she still makes room for him. She shares her thoughts. She asks about his. She doesn't need his presence to feel whole, but she welcomes it. And for a man, that's where real desire comes in, not from being needed, but from being wanted intentionally and openly. That's when he starts thinking about a future with her, not because she's dependent, but because she makes life richer, more meaningful, more vibrant, because let's be honest, no one wants to feel like they're someone's emotional life support system. But everyone wants to feel like their presence adds something to the equation. So, when you show up as the woman who's already living a full life, and yet you're willing to open your heart, let him in, and walk beside him instead of behind him, he realizes, I'm not just someone she wants for today. I'm someone she's building with. That's when love stops being a question and becomes a commitment. Absolutely. Here's a powerful, emotionally rich and reflective conclusion to your speech, How a Man Knows You're Worth Falling For, wrapped up in 4 impactful and flowing paragraphs So many women spend their energy trying to be enough for a man, beautiful enough, easygoing enough, available enough. But the truth is, the moment a man knows you're worth falling for isn't when you try to be everything for him, it's when you fully become everything for yourself. It's in the way you walk through the world with dignity, with a strong sense of who you are, and with a quiet confidence that doesn't scream for approval. He doesn't fall in love with your perfection, he falls in love with your presence. With the way you make him feel seen, safe, challenged, and chosen, all without ever losing sight of your own value. He recognizes it in the moments when you hold your standards like a queen, with grace, not ego. Not because you're trying to control him, but because you know the cost of self. Betrayal is too high to pay for the sake of temporary attention. And when you do this not out of bitterness, but from a place of strength and self-respect, he starts to see that you're not just someone passing through his life. You're someone who elevates it. He sees that if he wants to stay in your orbit, he has to rise. Not because you demand it, but because you inspire it. And when you challenge him, it doesn't feel like criticism. It feels like care. It feels like a reminder of who he wants to become, not a punishment for who he currently is. That subtle, sacred influence you carry as a woman, that ability to reflect back his greatness while still accepting his humanity, is something that stays with him. It wakes him up. It makes him feel not only loved but believed in. That is not something he forgets. That is something he builds his life around. But perhaps most of all, it's when he realizes that you already have a full life and yet still make space for him, that he knows he's found someone rare. You don't need him to complete you. You choose him from a place of abundance, not lack, and that choice, made with clarity, peace, and strength, that's what makes him fall, not into confusion, not into games, but into a love that feels like home. And when a man finds that kind of woman, he doesn't just fall for her, he fights to keep her. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If this message spoke to something in your heart, if it helped you see yourself or your relationship through a clearer lens, then I'm truly honored, because this isn't just about love. It's about knowing your worth, protecting your peace, and showing up as the version of yourself that no longer chases but attracts. I hope this gave your insight, clarity, or even just a small spark of empowerment to remind you you are already enough. The right person will see it, not because you convince them, but because you live it. If you found value in this, I invite you to like, share, or comment your thoughts. I read every message and love hearing how these words resonate with your story. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss future videos that speak to your journey in love, self, worth, and confidence. Until next time, take care of your heart, protect your energy, and always remember, you're not just worthy of love. You're worthy of the right kind of love. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.